All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the book on the screen. And that way we can all see it. All right. Introduction. In Real Love, the truth, and watch me mess up. Okay, let's be honest. Okay. In Real Love, the truth about finding unconditional love and fulfilling relationships. I talked about the importance of real love, unconditional love in our lives. With real love, we uniformly experience a profound and lasting happiness that enables us to have richly fulfilling relationships with the people around us. I did not suppose, however, that I would address all relationship issues in one book because marriage is a special relationship. We need to discuss more of the questions that pertain to it. It's obvious that we need a greater understanding of marriage. 56% of the people in this country are married, but more than half of those marriages will end in divorce. Positive. In light of this widespread failure in marriage, we must ask these questions. Why do so many marriages fail? How is marriage different from other relationships? Why is it important to understand the differences? Why do many couples fall in love, get married, and then fall out of love? What exactly should we do when our spouses are angry, demanding, or withdrawn? Why do we keep having the same destructive arguments with our spouses over and over? How do we make a fair division of the many jobs that must be done in the family? What can we do to settle our differences with our spouses about sex, the children, and other issues? Is it really possible to eliminate conflict in marriage and find the consistent love and happiness we've always wanted, regardless of the injuries we've already experienced? In Real Love and Marriage, we'll answer these critical questions. The principles we'll discuss have proven to be consistently successful in improving the success of marriages across the country. If you've read Real Love, you'll find Real Love and Marriage easier to understand. I believe that's true. If you haven't, don't worry. I'll summarize most of the first book and the first 2 chapters of this one. A word about gender. To avoid the tiresome repetition of the phrases him or her, his or hers, and he or she, I will often use the pronoun of one sex or the other. I might say, example, when someone feels sufficiently threatened, she will react with behaviors she learned in the past, even when those behaviors are harmful or to herself and others. It should be understood that any such description applies to both men and women. All right, good.
Anybody have any comments about the introduction so far? No.
No. Okay. All right, I will keep going. Chapter 1, the great secret, the real reason for marriage problems. What's the secret to a great marriage? What can you do to make yourself better? Because any relationship is a natural result of 2 people making independent decisions. We can meaningfully talk about the relationship between 2 people until we understand the nature and causes of individual human behavior. In these first 2 chapters, we'll discuss why we behave as we do and what we can do about it. Then we'll talk about the specific things we can do to create a richly rewarding marriage. Let's begin by observing an interaction between Mark and Susan, a married couple. Mark comes home one evening after an unusually long day at work and finds ketchup splattered on the wall near the front door. That's weird. I'm sorry. I've got another Ashley Schaefer here.
Zoom issue.
Maybe. All right. Mark and Susan, a married couple. Mark comes home one evening after an unusually long day at work and finds ketchup splattered on a wall near the front door. Stomping into the kitchen where Susan is busy working at the sink, he says in a harsh tone, "What's that mess on the wall?" Looking up from her task, Susan angry. Yeah. What happened? Oh, sorry. I think I'm hearing
feedback.
myself.
Yep.
Okay.
You can probably power it down if you want.
Very, very weird.
It just was delayed, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Looking up from her task, Susan angrily replies, "You want to be useful for once? Why don't you clean it up?" Offended, Mark snaps back, "Hey, I was only asking a question." And then he stalks out of the room, muttering something about her moods for the rest of the evening, then silently avoid each other. The next day, Mark learns what happened the day before. After work, Susan picked up the children from school and arrived home moments before he did. One of the children stumbled while running with a plate of food, spilling fries and ketchup everywhere. Susan had cleaned up the floor and was preparing to wash the wall at the very moment Mark had demanded an explanation of the mess. She'd already had a tough day, and Mark's accusatory question was more than she could stand. Our spouses are not the cause of how we feel and behave. We've all had experiences like that when our spouses are late or fail to do something we've requested or don't give us the attention we want. We tend to become irritated or withdraw or act like we've been treated unfairly, and we naturally hold our spouses responsible for our reactions, as Mark and Susan both did. Susan blamed Mark for her irritation, reasoning that she wouldn't have become angry if he hadn't first attacked her about the ketchup on the wall. Mark, in turn, blamed Susan for his anger, since he wouldn't have reacted as he did if she hadn't snapped at him. Although blaming our spouses for how we feel and behave often seems reasonable, how else can we feel and respond? We ask ourselves when they say and do those thoughtless and unkind things. Our blaming is never justified. Until we see that, we'll continue to point fingers at each other and repeat the unproductive feelings and behaviors that cause so much harm to our relationships and to our unhappiness. Imagine that you're 50 years old, you're 60 pounds overweight, and you haven't seriously exercised in many years. Although your cholesterol and blood lipids are sky high, you eat half, I'm sorry.
It's
Something doing weird. Imagine that. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. Can you manage that when that pops up?
Sure.
Thank you. You eat half a pound of bacon every morning, you have high blood pressure, and you don't take the medication that was prescribed for it. Even though your doctor has told you it will kill you, you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes every day. And finally, both your parents died of heart attacks before they were 40. Oops. One day, you and I go shopping at the grocery store, and when we get home, I insist that you help me carry the heavy bags of food into the house. You protest, but I pick up a bag and put it in your arms, and as you start walking up the steps to the front door, you keel over with a heart attack. Did I cause your heart attack? That might seem like a reasonable claim. After all, if I hadn't insisted you carry the bag of groceries, you might not have had the attack. But it's still ridiculous to say that I caused it. Your heart attack was caused by your weight, diet, smoking, genetics, cholesterol, and lack of exercise, all of which had nothing to do, with me. You were a heart attack waiting to happen. Essentially, you chose to have one, and I just gave you an opportunity to have it. In a similar way, although our spouses do affect the way we feel at any given moment, their contribution is minor. When we get angry or feel hurt in response to something our spouses have done, there are always many other factors that powerfully affect our feelings and behavior, none of which are determined by our spouses. In any given moment, we're reacting to a lifetime of events and feelings, not only to something our spouses have done or not done. In fact, if we're sufficiently unhealthy emotionally and spiritually, our spouses don't have to do anything wrong to provoke a negative reaction from us. Other people are never responsible for how we feel. If we understood that, our marriages would change dramatically. How could we keep being angry at anyone after realizing that he or she is not to blame for our feelings? So what does cause our feelings? Just as age, weight, lack of exercise, genetics, and other factors are the causes of heart attacks, what are the underlying factors that really determine how we feel and how we interact with our spouses? Yeah, that's it for that section.
Can we take a pause?
Yes.
For a second?
Yes,
Okay.
we can. Hi, Evelyn, NYC.
Hello, Evelyn. That was a lot. So if we could just take a pause for a second, and I'm just going to ask a quick question. In the words of one of my favorite facilitators, who has something to say about that? Anybody? Any comments? It's kind of a review on there in that real love section there. I think everybody, y'all know, except I don't know Evelyn yet, but I know the rest of you have experience reading real love books. So comments, questions, anybody want to throw anything out? Yeah.
I think you go.
I was gonna say, I do not have experience.
Matthew hasn't read the real love he's seen.
Oh, he hasn't read the real love stuff.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Or he just
Cool,
gets
cool.
away with a real love nut who just doesn't like to apply the principles to herself. Actually, I hadn't heard that heart attack example. I didn't remember that from this book. So I love that. Like, what better way to say that isn't him? Even though
Yeah.
it is, right? Awesome.
Or explain that to me.
Amy, Amy and John, anything come up for you guys?
I'm looking at my book, at my,
Here are notes.
or my highlighted. I mean, nothing like. Just basically reaffirming the real love concepts from the first book.
I liked, I think, and at Course Mirror, those of you who are Course students too, that whole piece of, I'm not upset for the reason I think, and everything is a reflection of my own energy. It's like, what's going on in me, because even if he came in, even if Mark came in all up in arms, right? It's like, hey, it's all good. I got it. If I'm not triggered, but if I'm triggered, then it's like, oh, we're going to have a fight, so it's, that one's kind of an interesting thing. How about you?
When we're feeling empty, I mean, it's so easy to, and I remember this in my old real love days and before diving into it, it's so easy not to it's so easy to feel blame, and then not project that outward. It just comes through immediately. Essentially, it's just, there's just nothing stopping it. It's just, I feel blame and out it goes, right out to you. And that's how I operated a lot. And there was at the beginning of real love training and coaching and calls and things and reading. And there was a lot of emphasis on biting my tongue and practicing, I think the one thing that really took hold for me that was really helpful in the old days was, you love people at minimum by not going into behavior around them.
Yeah.
So that really helped me a ton because I already controlled a lot. I already was a big controller. So I was like, well, I could start by controlling my behavior better. And then that was a helpful stepping stone.
Yeah.
But because I didn't know how to receive love yet,
Right.
but I could at least stop myself from going into behavior and projecting that out more often and become more cognizant of when I was in behavior. I mean, just being able to identify when I was in behavior was a skill to cultivate. And then, of course, not acting when you are aware about the fact that you are in a behavior, right? Sometimes we don't even know when we're feeling empty. That's the tough part. It might be working a lot and then you maybe it's a good day and you don't realize the eustress that's building up on the inside. And then you go pivot and cook dinner. Partner says something and you snap and realize I am really irritated. I'm a lot more stressed than I thought, but it was hiding under that productivity that was going on, so it's normal,
Yeah.
we all go through it.
For me, it was like, I could not go into behavior, and the behaviors, by the way, are lying, attacking, acting like a victim, running and clinging. We'll probably learn a little bit more about that in the chapters come. And we do them for 4 reasons: power, praise, pleasure, and safety. And for me, I could not go into behavior. So I just stopped talking to everyone. I was like, no, I'm going to attack. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to attack you. I just need to go in my room and be quiet with myself. And that really helped, actually, because then at minimum, I wasn't putting myself in a position where I could be harmful to anyone, which is good.
You took yourself off the battlefield of death
That's right.
when you felt vulnerable to getting on the battlefield.
Yeah, you got it.
I like it.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to
Comments,
say?
questions?
Comments, questions? And Evelyn, we just got started, so I know that you just popped in.
Yeah, we haven't even started chapter 1 yet. So you're here at the right time.
Just barely into it.
Just barely.
I don't
Barely.
even have the book.
Oh, that's okay. We're going to show you on the screen.
We have it on the screen.
I requested it from my library, so I'm waiting for it to.
Yay.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay. I'm gonna let you read. Oh, April.
April, I had a
Yay.
feeling she was gonna come.
Okay,
Real love. Can I read a little?
you go ahead. I insist.
I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to step on it.
Oh, I'm good.
Real love, the essential ingredient for happiness and success in every marriage. The most important requirement for our emotional health and happiness is real love.
Huh.
Real love is caring about the happiness of another person without any thought of what we might get for ourselves.
What?
I wonder how many, Susan, how many nickels do you have? How many times have you said that statement? You know, you'd be
All of them.
a millionaire.
Yeah.
Millionaire? Millionaire. It's also real love when other people care about our happiness unconditionally. With real love, they're not disappointed or angry when we make our foolish mistakes, when we don't do what they want, or even when we inconvenience them personally. When I use the word happiness, I do not mean the brief and superficial pleasure that comes from money, sex, power, and the conditional approval we earn from others when we behave as they want. Nor do I mean the temporary feeling of satisfaction we experience and the absence of immediate conflict or disaster. Real happiness is not the feeling we get from being entertained or making people do what we want. It's a profound and lasting sense of peace and fulfillment that deeply satisfies and enlarges the soul. It doesn't go away when circumstances are difficult. It survives and even grows during hardship and struggle. True happiness is our entire reason to live, and it can only be obtained as we find real love and share it with others. With real love, nothing else matters. Without it, nothing else is enough. With real love, nothing else matters. Without it, nothing else is enough. Sadly, few of us have sufficiently received or given that kind of love, not just during our marriages, but in our entire lives. From the time we were small children, we observed that when we didn't fight with our sisters, didn't make too much noise in the car, got good grades, and were otherwise obedient and cooperative, our parents and others smiled at us, patted our heads, and spoke kindly. With their words and behavior, they told us what good boys and girls we were. But what happened when we did fight with our sisters, made too much noise, got bad grades, and dragged mud across the clean living room carpet? That's a question. But did people smile at us or speak gentle, loving words? No, they frowned, sighed with disappointment, and often spoke in harsh tones. Just as the positive behaviors of other people communicated to us that we were loved, the withdrawal of those behaviors could only mean that we were not being loved. Although it was unintentional, our parents and others taught us this terrible message. When you're good, I love you, but when you're not, I don't. Or I certainly love you a great deal less. I have to think about that for 1 second.
When you're good, I love you, but when you're not, I don't. Or I certainly love you a great deal less. It's conditional.
It's really setting ourselves up for failure in a way, because you got parents who generally try to do a good job.
Oh yeah.
And they only know, let's just not make it about parents. Most people approve of others when they're doing something they like, right? And if you're a child, that's how we identify with love, is that we did good and we deserve the praise, of course. But the problem happens, and we're too young to know it at the time, is that we equate that with being loved. And so the absence of that behavior inadvertently, I think he said, teaches that we're not being loved, but that does not mean that we're not lovable. And that is the big issue of, you can just inadvertently take that away as a kid, even if a parent isn't criticizing you or in a behavior. So it's really tough. It's really tough to think that you could have your own thinking. You know how they say siblings take away their own messages from their parents,
Yeah. Different messages.
beliefs about money and things like that. And Well, the same thing can go for how lovable someone feels, depending on how they internalize those messages or the lack thereof. And I'm saying that a parent may be giving good advice or good praise for good grades or something and not giving any criticism otherwise. And that child still could internalize that they're not lovable just because they're not pushing to get those good grades or they're not being recognized in any other way, kind of thing. So it's really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So I just had a quick comment there.
Sure.
Comments, any other questions, comments? I'm saying it's easy to not feel loved, essentially.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that other people are doing something wrong. It's just the human condition to worry and to question ourselves, whether we're doing a good enough job, even from a young age, you know?
Mhm.
And it's so weird to me that it's like basic psychology, right? It's like you get a treat if you go pee in the potty instead of in your pants. Like, so like we're constantly from the beginning conditioned, right, to that, to
The
praise.
reward system.
Exactly. And then I think we do it unconsciously with our partners, our friends, our family, where it's like, even as adults, where it's like, if I make a nice dinner, then my man is so appreciative and he gives me a back rub. That's not our thing, but I'm just saying, right? So then it's like, oh, that works. Okay, I'll make a nice dinner and then I'll get the thing, like we don't even know that it's happening.
But if he's empty, you could make him 10,000 dinners and it's not going to feel good because it's still a trading situation. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if I do this, then I get this. And it's that if then thing. It really gets.
And if we always get it, but then like you said, but then one night we don't, it's going to be this, what Greg Baer just said, right? Like, oh, he must not love me anymore because he didn't do it, instead of, oh, he had a shitty day,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think 10,000 dinners is he's not going to eat all that either. It's going to go bad. So, I mean, but there's another good point that came up. I think, well, I'm a recovering perfectionist, so that I'm more in touch with this type of unworthiness, I guess you could say, to grow from. But we think that maybe this isn't just me, that we have to do more than we did before, to be lovable. I think it's almost assumed that feels like part of the human condition. Like what I did before wasn't good enough. It was good enough for a while, but now I'm expected to do more. Like I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting complimented or praised anymore for peeing in the potty. I mean, I used to, but
I can set something up if you want.
I have to be very regressed to accept that compliment. But we don't always get appreciated for the things that we're expected to do, and I think that's why it's nice for people to share gratitude and to feel grateful and all that stuff, to be full and to give something when someone's not expecting it, which is what real love is, and say, hey, I really appreciate that you did that.
It means so much more, like I'm not a huge over lovey-dovey kind of person in my personality type. But like the other day, I really felt love for a friend of mine and I texted her and I just said, hey, I love you. I appreciate you in my life. And that was it, and then she sent me a message back and said, this was really helpful because I'm going through something and da-da-da. And I was like, okay, that's great. I felt it and I said it, not because I had an expectation that she turned around and go, oh my gosh, I totally love you back, because that wasn't my intention. And she could have said nothing. She could have said what she said, or she could have said, well, yeah, you know what? Well, I hate you. And I would be like, yeah, but I love you because I feel that. That's the most genuine thing I've got going on inside of me right now. So that's more important. But it's and sharing it is really important too.
I don't know. I might be able, at this point, I might be, maybe not be developed enough to feel gratitude if someone went out of their way to tell me they hated me.
I hate you.
Kidding.
Yeah, no, it's probably, I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't like it. But if I'm full,
If
then
you're
I'll
full,
be
it doesn't
like,
matter.
okay, you must be having
Yeah.
a rough day. Can I bring you ice
If you're
cream?
full, it just washes right off your back.
That's right.
Rolls right off your back.
Okay, let's move forward.
Anybody have any comments or questions before we continue reading? No? Amy, how you doing?
Good.
Okay.
You want me to help with reading?
Yeah,
Oh, if you want to, sure.
that would be great.
No, I'm not expecting it.
Oh, I know, but I won't make you two read the whole time. Okay, where'd we leave off?
Additional love.
This conditional love.
This conditional love can give us brief moments of satisfaction, but we're still left with a huge hole in our souls because only real love can make us genuinely happy. When someone is genuinely concerned about our happiness, we feel connected to that person. We feel included in his or her life, and in that instant, we are no longer alone. Each moment of unconditional acceptance creates a living thread to the person who accepts us. In these threads, we have a powerful bond that fills us with a genuine and lasting happiness. Nothing but real love can do that. In addition, when we know that even one person loves us unconditionally, we feel a connection to everyone else. We feel included in the family of all mankind, of which that one person is a part. Without sufficient real love, we can only feel empty and alone, which is our greatest fear. In any given negative interaction with your spouse, it is the long-standing lack of real love in your life that determines how you feel, not the behavior of your spouse in that moment. Just as a heart attack is really caused by many long-standing factors, not just by a single moment of stress. In any given moment, you react to the amount of love you feel from everyone, past and present, not just from the person you're interacting with.
Hold on one second. We feel included in the family of all mankind. Hold on. First things and lasting happiness. Nothing but real love can do that. In addition, one person loves what we feel a connection to everyone. And this is pretty significant here. In addition, when we know that even one person loves us unconditionally, we feel a connection to everyone else. This is not just like, I love him, he loves me, and we're in this bubble together, and this is all the expansiveness that comes. No, it is every single, like when we are like totally full and he and I go do something, we go out, that loving energy goes to everyone else. Like we went to Denny's the other night,
Okay.
and the cook in the back was like, they're my favorite. And I know that's a brag, okay? I get it. The Denny's gal likes us, okay? But it's an extension of that real love that we have for each other that makes all of our interactions more loving and easier, like effortless.
As soon as you feel full, you feel you just want to give it away. You know,
Yeah.
It just exudes out, and other people smile at you because they love feeling full when you're feeling full. You know, it fills them up.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So and then we got a better meal because of it.
Yeah, we really did.
Like we got
She loaded it up. Okay. Oh my God.
biggest plate of nachos I ever got.
Okay. I just wanted to point that out. And then also to the big one, and Susan definitely is that big piece of, I'm not really upset with him. There is something being pulled from my past that is showing me my unlovability, my unworthiness, my stuff that I've got stuck in my crawl that I never healed. But yeah, Susan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the thing I love about that too, is like, it says when we feel loved, when we know that even one person loves us, we feel connection to everyone. If I know that even one person loves me, it's not possible that I'm unlovable, which is like,
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. That's that belief system shift that says where an old thought pattern might be, oh, they don't like me, so I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough. But instead, it's that shift that you're saying, Susan, which is saying, if even one person finds my lovability, then it is absolutely true and it cannot be contested, even by 10,000 that think I'm shit, I guess. Maybe something. And by the way, April and Evelyn, feel free to chime in if you'd like to. It's very open. easy going. All right, so I'll move on to the next if nobody else has anything they want to share. Gonna keep reading for me, Amy?
Did we finish the
Sure.
last page?
Yeah.
We did? Okay.
Hold on. The effect of real love. Before we can really understand the effect of real love in our lives, we need to actually feel it. Without that experience, the intellectual understanding is shallow, like trying to understand a strawberry without tasting it. Take your time as you read the following paragraphs. If possible, read them in a place where you won't be distracted, so you can visualize and feel the experience as you read. Imagine that you're having a difficult day. Several people have confronted you about mistakes you've made or assignments you've not completed, and you're feeling both inadequate and irritated. The computer isn't working again, and your car is in the shop for the third time in the past 2 months. You want to pound your fists on the wall and scream. In the midst of your frustration, a man and a woman walk into the room and address you by name. Even though you've never seen them before, you feel as though they've known you all your life. Somehow you sense from their peaceful and inviting expressions that you can trust them completely. They ask you to go with them, and without hesitation, you get up and follow them. Side by side, you walk between this couple for some time, finally turning into the driveway of a beautiful home. Walking through the front entryway, you enter a spacious, well-lighted room where many people are talking to one another. After seeing you, several of them come over to greet you. Although you've never met them before, you feel no anxiety because you see in their faces and gestures nothing but a sincere and unreserved welcome. In a way you can't describe, you sense that everyone in the room feels loved and happy, and you know that no matter what mistakes you've ever made or what flaws you have, these people accept you completely. As you sit and talk with them, you realize you don't need to do anything to impress them, nor do you have a need to hide anything from them. Utterly relaxed, you begin to tell them the story of your life. You talk about your mistakes, your foolishness, your weakness, your fears, and your successes. They understand everything you're saying and they accept you and care about you. You know there is nothing you could do that would disappoint or irritate them, nor would it be possible to feel embarrassed or ashamed around them. For hours, you talk and laugh with these new friends. Allow yourself to enjoy this feeling. Let it sink in and fill your entire being. Allow yourself to float in a calm, sweet ocean of the peace you feel. You'd like to stay in this place forever, but the day draws to a close and eventually you must go home. As you leave, your friends invite you to return anytime you wish, and you know what they mean. You know that they mean what they say. Now come back to the real world and consider this question. While you were with those people, did you feel any inclination at all to be angry at them or lie to them or withdraw from them? The idea is ridiculous. How could you feel angry or otherwise react negatively toward people who unconditionally accept and love you? Moreover, while you were with those people, did you feel any inclination to be angry at anyone else? At any of the people you know in real life? Were you irritated about the dysfunctional computer or the car in the shop? While you were with those loving people, you didn't have any of those negative feelings because when we feel unconditionally loved, we have the one thing that matters most in all the world. And then we lose our need to be angry, to feel hurt, to lie to people, and to withdraw from relationships.
I'm going to pause you right there. Let's pause. So have you guys ever, in April, just so you know, your phone camera is flipped forward instead of seeing you, which is fine. I just wanted you to know because I think I just caught some thigh.
I think it's her partner.
Oh, okay. I'm like, her arm?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, I got some skin, girl. Yeah. So hopefully you're laughing with me. So have you guys ever had that experience before where you've walked into a room of loving people that are just kind-hearted and don't want anything from you? They don't want you to be different. They don't want you to show up in a certain way. They just want you to be who you are, and that's enough.
I don't know.
We just did recently
What?
in Mofetta. All those people there didn't know us.
That's true.
Good. And in Italy?
Yeah, when we went to see where my mom was born, I have a bunch of cousins that I've never met before. And there was a bunch of their family members and just 20, 30 people we've never met before, but yet they treated us like they knew us forever.
Oh, I love that. That's good. So that feeling there, because, and then at the end of that, did you feel more full? Did you feel more connected and that you could easily share your feelings or your life with these people?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a little difficult in this situation because they only spoke Italian.
Yeah,
But
that helps.
yes, I totally felt that way.
Yeah, perfect. April, Evelyn, I know Susan has for sure. Have you guys ever experienced just a feeling of just a loving space? Or not? That's fine
That's
too.
not just with husband, right? With anybody?
Yeah, no, with anyone.
When I first met my in-laws, because my husband's from Dominican Republic, they were so welcoming to me. They never met me, and right away they were hugging me at the airport, and they treated me like a part of the family. And I stayed there for maybe 2 weeks, and then when we was at the airport, I started crying because I
Yeah.
felt like I was missing them already.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
so kind and sweet to me, his siblings and his extended family.
It's a wonderful thing to be able. I didn't really have this feeling until I went to a Real Love group for the first time, and I'm not necessarily recommending a Real Love group to you guys. I'm just saying that with the intention is to be loving, and sometimes in certain family dynamics, the intention is to be loving. I just didn't have that. I never had that growing up. I didn't have siblings. I had a very, very, very small family. And there was always a bunch of discord. So I didn't know that in groups, you could actually be in a loving space. So April, how about you, Dawn?
So I have an Aunt Betty that really was that person for me my whole life. I didn't see her all the time, but, she was like the one that gave me hope that relationships can be like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Yep. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Susan, did you have one that you wanted to say? No?
I was just doing thumbs up. And that I was saying to Matthew, it's so amazing, isn't it? How sometimes that one person, because for me, it's an aunt, for April, it's an aunt, for a client I have, it's an aunt. It's like, we don't always know what a difference we're making to someone.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Like when we're full and we've got, whether it's because this is how I had to get my mind around the bringing love to a relationship, is that we're a love generator, not a love getter, because we're so often making our partner responsible for our happiness or making our partner responsible for filling us up, that we forget that it comes from us. It is us. And then we give it, and so, but being in a situation where people are unconditionally loving with us, it helps the generator move. That's for sure. So, okay. So did anybody else want to read? Amy, are you finished with reading for now, or do you want to keep going?
It depends on if there's any other volunteers, or you guys are going to get stuck reading the whole time. I'll help some more.
It's okay. Susan, you want to read?
Yes. Where did you stop, Amy?
Have you ever experienced
Have you ever experienced an interaction with your spouse like the one Mark and Susan had? Have you ever said something you thought was innocent only to have your partner react much more negatively than you ever would have predicted? And then you react by getting angry in return, or by acting hurt or running away? We take offense, understandably, I might add, when our partners lash out at us or otherwise behave in ways we don't like. When we react to someone with anger or withdrawal, or by acting hurt, we never feel genuinely closer to that person. Instead, we feel more alone and miserable. So why do we keep doing those unproductive things? Why do we consistently react to our partners in ways that can only make us more unhappy and undermine the health of our marriage? Why don't we just stop these behaviors that cause so much pain? Just stop it. The answer is simple. When When you do feel unconditionally loved, as you did with the people in that house, you lose your tendency to feel hurt and alone and to react with anger, deceit, and withdrawal. You have these negative feelings and respond in these negative ways, therefore, only because you don't feel loved. Human behavior is usually that simple. There is much to be learned from the fact that when you were with these loving people, you didn't feel anger at the other people in your life. Real love from any source makes us happy, and we only feel empty, alone, angry, and so on when we don't have enough real love from anyone. When you get angry at your wife, therefore, it's not only because you don't feel loved by her. Your anger is a reaction to a lifetime of insufficient real love from anyone. Conditional versus real love. Conditional love is distinguished from real love by the presence of disappointment and anger. You can point out the mistakes of your spouse, for example, while you're unconditionally caring about her happiness. You can describe her mistakes so she can avoid the behaviors that affect her in a negative way. The instant you become disappointed or angry, however, your primary concern is no longer her happiness. You're thinking about yourself and how she has failed to do what you want.
Can I pause you, Susan?
Yeah, please do.
So that is very, and I know you see this too, Susan, I almost heard it in your voice. It's very sticky. Some sticky ass shit right here because, oh, you're gonna point out my mistake? Oh, you're gonna point out my mistake. So even you could have it, you could take all the energy, no anger, completely neutral. But if I'm empty, alone, and afraid, and you go, hey, I go ahead and tell you you're a mistake, which all I hear is I did something wrong and I should have done something differently, and I'm really fucked up, and I'm stupid, or whatever kind of programming I have from my past, because that's all I see anyway. That's going to create a fight. So he could be nothing, no anger. And I'm going to hear that I did something wrong. You have anything on that?
Oh, I know that it was a long period of recovery in that regard, because being blamed or criticized was a core wound for both of us, from our parents in particular. So we got to resolve that in our relationship, and it took a long time because it was so ingrained, and we were in business together. We've been in business together since for a long time. So having to talk about things that may need rectification or constructive criticism or whatever in the early days. And now, granted, I might not have said it. I may not have always been full saying those things, but there also have been times where I've said things full and they still would be received as I'm being blamed, I'm being criticized. And we had to reframe it. I mean, you've had to do it with me too. We've had to, at times, not all the time, but at times we've had to really reframe it again and again, saying, this is not about you. You're not doing anything wrong. Using things like leading phrases are very, very helpful. And I know that Susan's big on those, as was Janelle or is. And things like, you're not wrong. Just these things that are like pattern interrupts that help us to remember where we're likely to fall off, the wheels falling off in our communication, to help that person know that I still love you. You're not being attacked right now. You might be firing off something from your past because you're having an emotional reaction, but none of that is coming from me and my intentions. I am trying to be helpful. And that takes practice also.
Yeah.
To know, and unsolicited advice isn't love either. But like I said, in business together, so we both wanted to improve things, and certain things needed to be addressed from time to time, which forced us to talk to each other in a way that it was problem solving related. And there have been many iterations of feeling triggered by each other. Sometimes when the person was trying to trigger us, And sometimes when the person was absolutely not trying to trigger us. And so much practice helped to, it really just, it just took time.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of practice of getting through that and getting filled up before having those
Oh my God.
conversations made
Yeah.
a big difference too. Sometimes, I mean, you'll get good at this in time. You'll know when it's time to reach out sometimes versus when your bandwidth has just expanded to the point to where you know you can handle that yourself in your relationship and keep each other off of the field of death and stay connected.
Yeah, you and I love the leading things. You're not doing anything wrong. I love you so much. You cannot do it wrong. And I remember one time, I think I was sitting on the couch or something as per usual, and it's my favorite place. And he came over, I think he took both of my hands in his hand, and he was like, how are you doing right now?
That's a
like
good one.
where are you at right
Check
now?
in, yeah.
You know, and I've done that with other people too, like even outside of my relationship, where I've had a boss or whatever, and I'll go, hey, there's something happening. Where are you at right now on the emotional scale? Are
Yeah.
you happy? Or are you having some struggles, and let's work through that first before we talk about what's going on. You know, that
So that's-
kind of thing.
That's even better because it's not even talking business. It's taking a moment to be present and ground with that person. Say, hey, that's loving right there. Say, hey, how are you? Let's check in. How are you? And if you're good, great. And if maybe we'll talk about other things. And if you're not, we'll hold off on those things. You
Right.
know? Let's get full and connect first before addressing other things.
Yeah, good stuff. Anybody else have anything on that? No? Okay.
I think it's
Yeah,
like
Susan.
warrior level shit to have a relationship with your partner where you give your partner permission to tell your truth. Like the whole premise of unconditional love, learning to give and receive unconditional love is I tell the truth about myself, I feel seen, accepted, and loved. We're not supposed to, right? Tell the truth about someone else. So I love that you guys have been so diligent in your growth to be able to have that level of skill, mastery, right? And that you have that level of connection and safety in your relationship. I think that's
And we still have our moments, you know, I mean, we're human beings for sure. And that's when I call my friend Susan Ray.
well, and I think that that's one thing I would say, like about this section. It's like, okay, let's all go practice telling our own truth for a while first. And then also let's build a safe connection. Like I feel really safe with Matthew, and it is so hot to me when he's like, baby, I can't let you keep hurting yourself this way.
Yeah.
Right? When he comes and brings it from a place of, I love you so much that I want to invite you to stop lying your ass up and overgiving, for example. Right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I feel very loved when Matthew speaks to me that way also. Thanks, Matthew.
Good.
You're so good.
Anything for a laugh.
You're so good.
He doesn't. But it's nice to feel seen, accepted, and loved by for my real love skills by another facilitator. But yeah, with more skill, years, you can get to that love, that safety place and trust
Yeah.
place to where it's almost sometimes it's unspoken, I guess, as you grow, because you notice your partner and yourself not going for the cheap shots anymore,
Yeah.
the things that they would screw with them, power plays and things like that. It becomes more and more constructive and collaborative. And it would be really funny to share like one of our conversations where it can, only when there's something going down.
Yeah.
And you'll watch the flow and how it can get rocky, and then we pull up, and then maybe it gets rocky again, and then we pull up, and we because we're both ultimately committed. We're certainly not wanting to attack, but we trust each other enough to explore by sharing the truths that we can,
Mhm.
and let ourselves be vulnerable and let ourselves be messy, to get
That
to that
was
point.
that was one of the bigger ones for me to help me, was that I was a perfectionist too. So I wanted to do real love right. You do real love right, and then you get XYZ results. And if you don't do real love right, then you will never feel loved again. That was the kind of program that was running in my head. So guys, don't do that to yourselves. Because it doesn't work. We're supposed to be in the beginning of this just receiving love, but when you're in a partnership, you're learning together. So don't worry, you're not going to do it right. So instead, I'm like, honey, I'm going to do this messy. I'm going to really fuck this up right now. So can you just sit here with me while I say things out of my face and you just listen? And he's like, sure, and then I'll say the messy things. And I think they're way messier in my head than when I actually say them, because when I actually say them, he's like, that wasn't messy. I got it. I understood what you're trying to say. And I'm like, oh, but I feel like I was in like turmoil inside the entire time, when in actuality, it wasn't that bad.
It always feels worse on the inside than it does when it comes out.
Yeah.
But that just reframing that is such a practical tool. Even this day and age, because it tells me how I need to show up. It gets me to be conscious again. When you say, hey, I just need to share my truth. And that just instantly reminds me, okay, see, accept, love, do not fix. Let her say what she needs to say. And I know how this goes. I've done it a lot. And that reframe helps me to allow her to do her thing. And then it becomes very, very productive, as opposed to her just kind of unconsciously and not quite so present, kind of going into a little bit of behavior and not victimhood, but venting. And it's a little sloppy, and that's okay. And she hasn't checked in with me, so we don't really quite know. And then things can get a little bit rocky, but we always course correct. But those reframed statements, hey babe, I gotta share something, get it off my chest, that makes me feel loved immediately. And then I can give her that space. It triggers me positively into practicing if I have the capacity to do it. And if I don't, I can tell her, give me 30 minutes and then we'll do it. Or I can say, sure, let's do it. And we'll sit on the couch and we'll do our thing.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes. And let's just kind of, first of all, was this helpful for you guys? Did you like this time? And how we did? Excuse me while I ask for validation.
Yeah, approval, please.
Approval,
You
please.
guys are amazing as always.
Yes,
Yes.
that's great.
Good. Good. April, Evelyn, do you guys have anything you want to share, talk about before we wrap up, April?
I'm really stressed right now because of my phone thing. So I'm not the best participant, but
Oh, that's okay.
but because I don't know like what you can see. And anyway, but I'm gonna say this, that of course I've written down a page and a half of different things you've said. And I'm gonna put it into play. Yeah.
Replay available?
Yeah, it's on our Facebook group. So it should have come up correctly.
Oh, we're doing it live, not a
We're
recording.
doing a Facebook Live,
Okay.
and I guess I could have recorded it, but I forgot. So I think I might be able to take it down off of Facebook, put it on YouTube. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I also didn't know how much we would be sharing and how we wanted to go about it. But Evelyn, anything from you? You're a new friend to me, so I just wanted to. Was this time useful?
Is this an ongoing meeting with the same book?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So what chapter are you guys on now?
This is chapter 1. We're just a few
Oh, just
pages
started.
in.
Okay, because I should be getting it from the library within a week.
Okay.
So next week is another meeting?
Yeah. Are you on Facebook?
I'm not sure. Because I don't really go on those.
No problem. No problem. It should be the same link. I also sent you an email from connect.tkschaefer@gmail.com. So I don't know if you got it from there, if you got them from the Zoom registration or where you got the link from, but
It was eventbrite.com.
okay, great. Great, perfect. Then you should be getting updates. And otherwise, guys, my email is connect.tkschaefer@gmail.com. So if you see emails from me, you can whitelist me and stuff like that so that, I make sure that you get the link. And then let's just go ahead and check out real quick. And then you guys have a beautiful evening.
Thank you.
I feel good. I'm happy. This was amazing. And it's fun to do this with my fiance, Matthew. And I have been together just 4 years now. And early in our relationship, I was hosting groups and he came to a couple and he was like, yeah, it's not really my scene. I love you. You do you. And so it's fun to be with people about it where we can absorb it together instead of, yeah, so I'm excited to see what he thinks about it as he hears it from you guys and gets to see your example, you know.
Matthew, did you feel like some of the things that we were saying resonated with you?
Well, yeah, only because I've, over the years being with Susan, I've learned so much. I mean, I come from a totally different background as far as love from family and stuff than lots of people that I met through Susan that, you know, have trauma or whatever, and they're in their history. And to see my horizons open up with different views of people, how they interact with people, it's really interesting to see how everybody has different experiences in life and they shape them to see their, you know, it shapes how they interact with in relationships, you know. It's amazing, it really is. I mean,
Well, it is an interesting thing, isn't it? When you're around somebody that's been kind of steeped in this real love kind of understanding and things like that, it's just, we just have I don't know, a different perspective on life and love. And, you know, it's not hard. It's not hard. Like since I was a kid, it was like, love is hard, you know,
Yeah,
and you need to show up in this certain way or whatever. Yeah.
For Matthew, though, he's like the 2% that Greg Baer references that had a decent childhood. Like Matthew didn't have trauma, right? He had his accident, but he was 20 by then. So he was.
that's different trauma.
I know, but I'm just saying. So for him, he was like, you know, his family's law enforcement. They're not particularly demonstrative, but they were good to each other. Like he didn't have all that. Like his biggest thing was his mom, like, didn't pick him up from baseball practice, right? Like.
But just say,
As a deputy sheriff, you know what I mean?
But I mean, it's just so interesting the way that everybody perceives stuff differently. It's just, I mean, no different than religion. It fascinates how just the human condition just fascinates me.
me too. Me too. That's why I've always been so interested. I love watching people. I love watching people interact. I love watching people talk. I love watching people understand things and get things. And I love to watch people feel loved. You know, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
To watch all the bells and whistles go up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you fill up just watching.
That's right. It's the mirror neuron thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
You can heal by watching other people heal.
yeah.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah.
For sure. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop our Facebook Live.
Does anybody else want to
Oh,
check out?
anybody else want to check out? John, we haven't heard much from you.
No, I'm good.
Oh, I do want to ask, should we, since we're going to be doing this together, should we still read the book separately or stop and can just continue on with the group?
Whatever you want to do, honey. I mean, if anything, you'll hear it twice, you know, which is probably a good thing. At least it's a good thing for my head. But if you feel like you'll get what you need to get just from our time together, that's totally fine. And I've got this whole thing set up for like 12 weeks. It'll be a standing, you know, Wednesday evening thing. But if people aren't able to come to it, we're going to have it be available in the Facebook group. So if for some reason you're like, well, I wasn't able to come, that's totally fine. But I've got it set up for 12 weeks. It might go longer because we just wanted to see how this would go. And I mean, I like the structure of stopping and saying, let's pull this out a little bit more. But yeah, so the question was, should I still read it or should we just wait for the thing? Do whatever you feel is best.
It's up to you, obviously, I think is what she's trying to say. It's up to you. And if it were me, considering how much how many years I've been doing real love for, the repetition is where it's at. So, I mean, if you want to, don't make it harder on yourself, but if you want to, feel free to do it on your own and do this if you wanted to go hardcore with it. But if that feels like too much, obviously just do one or the, one or the other,
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
There's no
you.
wrong way to do it. There's no wrong way, and everybody has their own pace. There's not a time limit on the curriculum, so we all have our own lessons to learn, as we navigate feeling more and more love too. So, so there's not a right or wrong way to do it. I just think that participation is what counts, just showing up.
Yeah. And,
doing the work on your own time frame.
I was going to say something now. I forgot.
And you're
Oh. So if somebody shares in here, which is perfectly fine if you share something, just know that if it's not really resonating with you, it's not really your issue or whatever, that's totally fine. There's going to be something in this for everyone at any given time, and sometimes it's just something that hasn't come up yet. And then we're like, oh, that's how I handle that thing. Oh, I'm just going to say what I'm thinking, which is I'm going to be messy. And sometimes it comes out just like that. I remember I had that conversation with somebody and they were like, just say it's messy. It's okay. It's just going to be messy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't know that it necessarily applies to me right now. And then in the moment of feeling just insane around this, I was like, oh. And so sometimes we hear things we don't need until later.
Yep.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and shut off our Facebook
Thank you.
Live. Bye, Facebook people. I love you.
Good night.